The Prelude by William Wordsworth. Book 4. Strange rendezvous. My mind was, at that time, a party-colored show of grave and gay, solid and light, short-sighted and profound, of inconsiderate habits and sedate, consorting in one mansion, unreproved, the worth I knew of powers that I possessed, though slighted and too oft misused. Besides, that summer, swarming as it did with thoughts transient and idle, lacked not intervals when folly from the frown of fleeting time shrunk, and the mind experienced in herself conformity as just as that of old to the end and written spirit of God's works, whether held forth in nature or in man, through pregnant vision, separate or conjoined. When from our better selves we have too long been parted by the hurrying world, and droop, sick of its business, of its pleasures tired, how gracious, how benign is solitude, how potent a mere image of her sway, most potent when impressed upon the mind with an appropriate human center. Hermit, deep in the bosom of the wilderness, votary in vast cathedral, where no foot is treading, where no other face is seen, kneeling at prayers, or watchman on the top of lighthouse, beaten by Atlantic waves, or as the soul of that great power is met, sometimes embodied on a public road, when, for the night deserted, it assumes a character of quiet, more profound than pathless wastes. Once, when those summer months were flown, and autumn brought its annual show of oars with oars contending, sails with sails, upon Winander's spacious breast, it chanced that, after I had left a flower-decked room, whose indoor pastime, lighted up, survived to a late hour, and spirits, overwrought, were making night do penance for a day spent in a round of strenuous idleness, my homeward course led up a long ascent, with a road's watery surface, to the top of that sharp rising, glittered to the moon, and bore the semblance of another stream, stealing with silent lapse to join the brook that murmured in the vale. All else was still. No living thing appeared in earth or air, and, save the flowing water's peaceful voice, sound there was none. But lo, an uncouth shape, shown by a sudden turning of the road, so near that, slipping back into the shade of a thick hawthorn, I could mark him well, myself unseen. He was of stature tall, a span above man's common measure, tall, stiff, lank, and upright. A more meager man was never seen before by night or day. Long were his arms, pallid his hands. His mouth looked ghastly in the moonlight. From behind, a milestone propped him. I could also ken that he was clothed in military garb, though faded, yet entire. Companionless, no dog attending, by no staff sustained, he stood, and in his very dress appeared a desolation, a simplicity, to which the trappings of a gaudy world make a strange background. From his lips ere long issued low muttered sounds, as if of pain or some uneasy thought. Yet still his form kept the same awful steadiness. At his feet his shadow lay, and moved not. From self-blame not wholly free, I watched him thus. At length, subduing my heart's specious cowardice, I left the shady nook where I had stood and hailed him. Slowly from his resting place he rose, and with a lean and wasted arm, in measured gesture, lifted to his head, returned my salutation, then resumed his station as before. And when I asked his history, the veteran, in reply, was neither slow nor eager, but unmoved, and with a quiet, uncomplaining voice, a stately air of mild indifference, he told, in few plain words, a soldier's tale, that in the tropic islands he had served, whence he had landed scarcely 3 weeks past, that on his landing he had been dismissed, and now was traveling towards his native home. This heard, I said in pity, "Come with me." He stooped, and straightway from the ground took up an oaken staff, by me yet unobserved, a staff which must have dropped from his slack hand, and lay till now neglected in the grass. Though weak his step and cautious, he appeared to travel without pain, and I beheld, with an astonishment but ill suppressed, his ghostly figure moving at my side. Nor could I, while we journeyed thus, forbear to turn from present hardship to the past, and speak of war, battle, and pestilence, sprinkling this talk with questions, better spared, on what he might himself have seen or felt. He, all the while, was in demeanor calm, concise in answer, solemn and sublime he might have seemed, but that in all he said there was a strange half-absence, as of one knowing too well the importance of his theme, but feeling it no longer. Our discourse soon ended, and together on we passed in silence through a wood gloomy and still. Upturning then, along an open field, we reached a cottage. At the door I knocked, and earnestly to charitable care commended him as a poor friendless man, belated and by sickness overcome. Assured that now the traveler would repose in comfort, I entreated that henceforth he would not linger in the public ways, but ask for timely furtherance, and help such as his state required. At this reproof, with the same ghastly mildness in his look, he said, "My trust is in the God of heaven, and in the eye of him who passes me." The cottage door was speedily unbarred, and now the soldier touched his hat once more with his lean hand, and, in a faltering voice, whose tone bespake reviving interests till then unfelt, he thanked me. I returned the farewell blessing of the patient man, and so we parted. Back I cast a look, and lingered near the door a little space, then sought, with quiet heart, my distant home.